Most of us have been in the situation where we must visit a church for the very first time. It's never an easy and comfortable scenario, as I am sure everyone can attest to. Walking up to the steps in a new area, new smells, new old people, is also similar yet different. Everyone does smile for the most part, except for possibly some old crotchety man or woman who no longer really cares to demonstrate a sense of superficial pleasantry, as they are simply thinking probably about the pot roast that is probably cooking at home. I do that. Or the football game, or whatever the last mean lady said, and what would be probably the best comeback for that lady. Numerous conversations are happening as you are given a bulletin, if they exist anymore. Most churches have done away with them. So there are one or more screens probably flashing imagery about upcoming Bible studies, baptisms, different activities that are happening within the church. You've seen this. And every so often there is a welcome to church. This slide is meant for you. You and your family, if they come. They sit down and everyone quietly stirs as we all look around at this new environment. Who are these people? Are they nice? Are they mean? We don't know. Now, a few more people begin to sit down as the service nears its beginning time. The band up front begins to play, or maybe it's just a simple piano. The church begins to sing one song, and then a middle-aged man or woman walks up to the front and begins to welcome everyone in the audience. He then announces, or she then announces, that everyone should take a moment to meet and greet and say hello to the visitors. Of course, the music starts playing again, and everyone begins to shake hands and say hello. A few people might actually pass by and shake your hand and continue onward, and then we probably sing more songs, followed by a sermon, followed by an invitation. And finally, everyone is told to have a good day, and you stand up and you begin to follow the crowd out to the front door. Again, maybe a few people will motion a slight smile in your direction, say that they're thankful that you decided to come today, and they hope that you have a great afternoon. Does that about sum up the whole situation? Okay, hold up for 1 second. Just okay. All right, listen. I want to stop for a second and admit, yes, I am being rather critical of churches, and I believe for many churches this criticism is valid. Yet it would be wrong of me to not also state that there are some good, solid churches out there who have solid processes and believers who are sensitive to newcomers, who go well beyond the basic standard that I just described. In fact, I want to give a shout out to the Rock Church in King, North Carolina, where my family and I attend. Now, the Rock Church exhibits characteristics my family and I covet when it comes to desiring to welcome newcomers. The Rock Church seeks to be real and also seeks avenues to communicate towards others that truly connect. So I will admit, even with my criticisms with churches in general, the concept of being real with newcomers is not a lost cause. And if your church also exhibits, an amazing hospitality ministry and has members who sole desires to make sure that newcomers they have a solid opportunities to connect, give your church a shout out in the comments and let me know. I honestly would love to hear about other churches, who have the same heart's desire. Now, why don't we just get back to the topic at hand? But for the most part, you leave with very little new information about this church. Now, the people seemed friendly, yet no one tried to connect with you or your family, probably. You might even attend a few more times with similar situations in hand. You might even attend on another evening, or even possibly go to a meal. Every time you look around and you see lots of people talking, but very few, if any, actually approach you and try to talk to you or get to know you. Now, I would guess that within this year alone, hundreds of people have gone through similar scenarios. In previous years, I would have probably maybe have guesstimated thousands, but I'm not so sure thousands are in the numbers anymore. Hey guys, welcome to Godly Guy Stuff, a group for guys here to connect and to collaborate on how we as men can have a stronger impact on our lives and the lives of those who depend on us. Now, if you are a guy who struggles through life and sees a wave of people claiming to be Christians with no connections, wondering how to create godly paths and connections in the midst of all this, make sure you subscribe to be part of a place that produces content for an iron sharpens iron environment. That's what this is all about, guys. I also have a locals community for up-and-coming topics as we continue conversations, and for those of you who, wish to dig deeper in life together. It's not difficult for any godly guy to, what this scenario is like. It happens far too often. And the visual that stands out from these types of scenarios would deem Christians to have an air of elitism to them. People walking away wondering, how do I become part of that? How can I become connected? Even when you might follow all the rules given to you by a group of believers, you can still find yourself on the outside peering in. I do not believe that this conundrum is specifically for Christian communities, but it can be found in many types of scenarios outside in the non-Christian world as well, probably more so. But I can safely say, after visiting countless churches and attempting to connect to many of them, I've had different levels of success and failure with this situation. And the more we move into the 21st century, the more I see churches accepting this concept of elitism and making it more and more difficult for people to actually become connected. Now, I do not believe it is completely the fault of the churches or the societal groups of Christians, as we do move more and more into a non-Christian culture that America has become. Therefore, stronger walls are being built and more caution is being added to what used to be a very easy process. Now, is there truth to the concept that Christians are an elitist group? And if so, is this something that we should fight against or accept the role placed on our heads? For a culture that has become predominantly non-Christian, as I said in the opener, the perspective of the Christian community has become more warped throughout the decades. As I look back, not just on the years that I've been on earth, but even the decades preceding my existence, I see an ever-growing presence of non-Christian accusations tossed towards Christianity for being un-Christ-like. It's completely understandable within the realm of Christianity that our goal every day is to be Christ-like. Now, unfortunately, over the past seasons, the definition of Christ-like has been warped into being Christ himself. Therefore, it is a guaranteed attribute attached to Christianity by the non-Christian world of immediate failure for Christianity in general when just one Christian sins one time. You can almost deem this to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Since Christians are not Christ himself, Christianity must be false. If a Christian is not Christ himself, the entire religion should be null and void and disregarded as fake. And as we hear in today's news, even violent. The most ironic part of this absolute failure is that it almost places an elitist perspective on the Christian society as well. It's true, we do wish to be Christ-like, and that is the goal. But for an ungodly world's perspective, requiring this goal is inconceivable and too lofty of a concept to be deemed realistic. The Christian now understands the goal cannot be achieved here on earth, and only Christ can be Christ. It's kind of common sense. But going beyond the goals and desires Christians have for themselves, Scripture also can be manipulated to cause Christianity to appear elitist. Hebrews 10:10 can be used in this fashion. We have been set apart as holy because Jesus Christ did what God wanted him to do by sacrificing his body once and for all. The non-Christian worldview of salvation warps Hebrews to redefine setting apart and making holy as the individual becoming the choicest part of humanity, the socially superior part of society. I do want to mention here, we as Christians have not done ourselves many favors in these parts recently. I will completely admit that it is very difficult to not see oneself as an elitist when you know that you are a child of God. And when God blesses you and develops a peaceful culture to surround you and your family, almost as if it's a slice of heaven, it is very easy to fall into this trap. And I would think there would be many Christians that would look at this statement above and claim it to be true. In many respects, it's very close to truth, which makes this some of the most dangerous information out there. Instead of claiming this to be truth, I would deem this to be a partial or half-truth gospel. It has the sounding and presence of mind to appear like it's based in Christianity, but it's not. And a half or partial gospel is a false gospel. So Satan uses this tactic in order to push people away from Christianity and to smear the name of Christ as something completely unobtainable. Anyone who wishes to obtain this would be deemed an elitist. So let's look more deeply into what this is supposed to be and how close this is to the truth. We are not the choice part of humanity. For the two aspects that we spoke about, seeking to be Christ-like and being set apart as holy, there are different tactics the Christian godly guy can use to move forward in life within a non-Christian environment. Now, there is little to nothing that we can do about the worldview on us, as they will always be warped and seeking to mischaracterize the concept of Christianity. Our goal of being Christ-like will never be understood by those who cannot comprehend a day in the life of sanctification. This warped concept will be part of our daily life and needs to be understood that we cannot force a conviction on society. I believe when the majority of America has or had a basic understanding of Christian ethics, and we all agreed upon them, there was no reason to have any other types of laws in place. As time has progressed and we have slowly lost our understanding for this foundation, we should not be surprised when it comes under attack. And unless God chooses to act in some significant manner, we should expect more of our Christian values to be sadly removed from daily societal living. Now, this does not give the Christian the freedom to seek a lifestyle outside of being Christ-like, but it will mean our goals will become more foreign to those who are around us. Does that make sense? But for our own mind's sake, our perspective needs to be crystal clear on who we are as Christian men. Now, the daily struggle of seeking a life of Christ adjacent will produce blessings that come from God. It is our goal not to allow these blessings to remove us from a proper foundation. So let's return to Hebrews 10:10 and review it as is supposed to be translated from the original language. Now, we originally read it we read it in the God's Word translation. Let us now look at it in the New American Standard 1995 version. But this will we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. In this version, the concept of being set apart as holy is translated into one word, sanctified. In the original Greek, the word is hagiazo, and that means to render or acknowledge, to separate from profane things and dedicate to God, consecrate things to God, dedicate people to God, to purify, to cleanse externally, to purify by expiation, free from guilt of sin, to purify internally by renewing of the soul. Now, when we look back on the Merriam-Webster's definition of the word elite, we get this: the choice part, the best of a class, the socially superior part of society. Therefore, we see a clear and distinctive difference between what the world would perceive as elitist and what the Bible claims to be sanctified. A sanctified individual chooses a path that acknowledges that they are dedicated to God, consecrated to God, and purified to gain access. The choice on the sinner's part must happen for the sanctification to take place. But the sanctification does not raise the sinner to become superior to anyone else in society. Now, the key word that is different is that Christians are not the choice part, we are the chosen part. And it's that slight variation in understanding, that one word, chosen, swapped out for choice, is what makes the worldview a false gospel. Christian men, remember that there is nothing about you that makes you better than anyone else. This is first mentioned in the book of Psalms, and it's reiterated in Romans 3:10. As it is written, there is none righteous, not even one. Godly guys, the challenge for you this week starts with a reminder. Number one, remember that we are chosen, and that does not make us greater than any others. We are still sinners saved by grace. Number two, walk in a manner that reflects your choice in humility, knowing that every breath is given with mercy. Number three, seek God's blessings and do not be surprised when they come. Wrap up. The mere fact that we live in a fallen world requires the Christian man to accept the reality that the truth of Christianity will not be freely allowed. And we will face potentially a daily, potentially deadly threat of misconceptions, warped perspectives, and attacks on your very character because you're seeking a life of purity through Christ. Now, this will always come with its pitfalls, and oddly enough, the trap of elitism is an issue we need to all have kept in check with. So as we create new foundations for our families and build the necessary walls of protection for our children to live in, we need to recognize that we must have a patient heart for when the world comes knocking. And when a seeker comes to your church or your workplace or even your home, we need to be reminded that the blessings that we have been given come because of a sacrifice that we could not make. And that this sacrifice needs to be demonstrated above all else. Now it's your turn. All right, what did I miss today? Is the trap of elitism alive and well within your community? Or is this something that you've been able to work around and successfully avoid? I'd love to know. Are there any additional steps that could be taken for the godly guy to navigate this minefield? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for listening throughout the entire video, and please definitely follow me or join the Godly Guy Stuff group on Gab. Gab is the launching headquarters of this content that is produced for Godly Guy Stuff. So, if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter or some other platform, you're missing a lot more content. There's also a Godly Guy Stuff Locals community where I post content for upcoming videos, mostly just accountability for myself. You can find even more videos, sneak peeks, deeper personal connections, and future casting on upcoming ideas. If you want to see what I'm currently working on, you go to Gab. For upcoming topics, head on over to Locals. Now, links are in the descriptions, and I look forward to talking to you and having the conversation continue. Thanks.